The Founders on Earth History Part 7 and Date. Channels Note. This section was revised and edited several times with the assistance of the founders in order to make it more readable and consistent chronologically. The words Dracos or Draconians are used interchangeably but refer to souls originating in the Alpha Draconis star system. Greetings again, beloved creators. We are the founders, continuing our discussion and offering insight on the Luciferian rebellion. Up until about 1.5 million years ago in your timeline, Earth continued to attract more and more souls from across the universe. The vibratory level of these souls was generally 40 density, meaning that they were subject to the astral and etheric distortions inherent within that level of vibration. The genetics were now a bleed of many races, but the Orions gradually began to dominate. War between Rigel and Betelgeuse had made life rather intolerable for many Orions, and Earth was seen as a place to begin life anew. Unlike the Dracos, the Orions were able to easily land directly on the Earth. In addition to coming through the incarnational procession, so their numbers increased significantly faster than the Dracos, whose reptilian bodies had a hard time adjusting to Earth's atmosphere and gravity. We, the founders, observed with dismay what goes on. But because we were not allowed to interfere, we were like lab technician watching a specimen multiply out of control and doing nothing to contain it. Very, very complacent. A group of archangels and ascended beings from the 7th, 8th, and 19th century were also watching the Earth. Several of these beings are well known to Earth's people, including Archangel Michael, an ascended being that was later given the name Lucifer, was among those watching the progress of Earth. Lucifer devised a plan to lessen the chaos on Earth by teaching Earth souls how to control their emotions and use their intellectual capabilities so they would not be as easily swayed by the negatively polarized factions. So, if Lucifer is good, so who are the negatively polarized factions? Who are they? Or is it all inverted? The good become bad and bad become good for you? Oh, I really don't understand. It's so complex, all this. Lucifer mistakenly attributed the decay situation on Earth to unbridled emotions and passion. A group of souls headed by Lucifer came to Earth and established a series of mystery schools designed to train souls in suppressing and controlling the emotional body. The plan backfired because as the students learn to suppress their emotions, they do this in many religions up to now. So I wonder, Yeah, maybe these religions or whatever doctrine come from Lucifer. They say that to suffer is okay. We must suffer in silence. We must not show our rage or whatever. It's wrong to show rage. It's wrong to complain about our sufferings. They would say that, you know, and all in the name of religion even. Their souls became more and more fragmented until their vibration dropped below 4th density into 3rd density. Suppressing any part of the self results in a loss of power and warnancy. Yeah, of course, and not only that, it builds inside a timing bomb. A child that is taught how to suppress his anger is a timing bomb for the future. As they grow up, they will vent it back either in other people, their wives, or their children, or their parents even, you know. So it's not good. It's not a good thing to ask the child to shut up, not to cry, not to show anger, whatever. Let them express themselves. The key here is to learn how to draw a line between the child being overbearing and too rude and um, unable to control, out of control, and be just normal when I express their anger. The shame of emotion in a man, the Victorian suppression of sexual desire, and the making of feelings wrong all had their origins in Lucifer philosophy. Okay, hey, wait a minute, but this sexual desire here is not very healthy to say that we go around and then be promiscuous. I don't think that's a nice thing to be or do. We will pay the price for it, for being promiscuous, for being faithful, whatever. Okay, I don't think this is a good idea. If you want to talk about sexual desire here, it is give out the wrong message to the mass that it's okay to go there and play with women, play with men, having sexual anarchy, and even rape. No, we shouldn't do that. That's no good. Okay, let's draw the line. It's one thing for you to express yourself, another to be promiscuous and out of control when sexuality is the question. Archangel Michael, seeing what once happened on earth, found that he could sit by no longer, simply watching, and so he headed a group of ascended beings who voluntarily dropped their vibrations and came to earth, establishing another mystery school designed to raise the vibration of souls back into the light. Once Michael and his group arrived on earth, the vibrations were so dense that he and his band of celestial helpers became caught in the game of duality and started seeing the negatively oriented factions as evil forces to be overcome. So they went into overzealotry. Thus, these archangels reinforced the concept of light versus dark on your world. Michael took the side of the light, and many members of the councils of Rigel, as well as most of the Dracos, took the polarity of the dark. So this is how it started the war, the battle between good and evil, and then Michael and the dragon. Meanwhile, Lucifer and his group maintained their cool, calm aloofness, becoming armchair strategists, watching with interest the battles taking shape. He became so fascinated with this drama, of duality that he began building up both sides through training the light and dark forces to fight each other. Oh, so he wants to manipulate the pull of his string. So he wants the 15 multi-dimensional being, right? And he's the manipulator, the one that pulls strings from afar. Of seeing who would be supreme victors, the missing ingredient in all of this was compassion. Lucifer taught the soldiers on the battlefield to suppress their emotions and become hardened to misery and suffering. Archangel Michael taught the soldiers to be passionate and forceful in overcoming the dark forces. Good, good. I even see them good, Michael. When Lucifer saw what Michael was doing, he turned his attention from the Orions and waged war on Michael's forces, and a great battle ensued in the astral and etheric planes above Earth. This became known as the war in the heavens. Michael's forces were passionate about becoming victors over darkness. Lucifer's forces were cool, calm, and intellectual and waged their wars through cunning strategy. They are not intellectual, they are crooks. They are psychos, they are crook. This called crooks, psychos forces, not intellectual. They are just smart crook. They are not intelligent, but they are smart crooks. That's how I define them. The third force in all this, the negatively polarized Orions and Draconians proliferated as their primary foes were now at war with each other. If the Orions and Draconians proliferated as their primary foes, so who was this primary foe after all? Primary foes. Who were them if they were not the Draco and Grace, whatever? The war in the heavens lasted about 1,000 years, taking place at roughly 500,000 BC. During the period from 1000 BC until 500,000 BC, the population of Earth grew from about 200 million to almost 1 billion people. That was nothing. Today we have even more, because the wars were largely upward and did not significantly impact the surface of the earth or the subterranean couches in Agartha. The population did not drop that much during the Luciferian rebellion. Most of the surface fighting was regional and involved conventional weapons. They mean here was the one who battled, who fight among each other, war like we have now, nation against nation, government against government, people against people, in human body. After about 100 years of fighting, a truce was declared, and Lucifer and his group agreed not to promote overt aggressions against anyone in the earth system. Michael realized the futility of fighting the darkness and also the futility of trying to overcome the suppression of emotional energy by force. And now we draw back into the celestial realms to integrate the lessons learned. What lesson? What's so wrong about try to overcome evil? What lesson? Really, what lesson he had to learn? You know what? What's the lesson that you, Luciferian, has to learn in a way? Huh? That you should be stupid, right? Between 500 BC and 200 BC, life gradually evolved on Earth, and a few souls recaptured their fourth density. BC to 100 BC, life gradually evolved on Earth, and a few souls recaptured their fourth density warring in sea and began learning how to live cooperatively. During this period, many more souls came from all over the galaxy, and Earth truly became a melting pot. However, the biggest groups were still the Orions from Betelgeuse and Rigel. During the Luciferian rebellion, the councils of Betelgeuse sided with Michael and the light forces, while the councils of Rigel sided with the dark forces. Oh, so this Rigel must be a watch the map, the Rigel versus Abedi. The concept of Betelgeuse on Betelgeuse, okay, but this Rigel is not very nice. Although there was very little overt hostility during the transition time following the rebellion, both Orion groups generally confined their breeding to their respective polarities, thereby retain their DNA structure. The Betelgeuse faction remained more peaceful, while the Rigel factions continued to be domineering and aggressive. The pinnacle of population during these times reached almost 1.5 billion, too little, just before a grand cycle around 200,000 BC. The first period of Lemuria started about 200,000 BC, after one of the grand cycles of 25,920 years had completed. This particular shift wiped out about half of Earth's population through massive earthquakes. The EM shift caused certain lands to break up and move apart, and the one land mass became particularly fertile ground for the development of a rather beginning civilization. Souls who were attracted to this land mass were generally peaceful people, some originating the Pleiades sector, and some from Sirius and Orion. This continent became roughly the size of Australia and was located almost on the same longitude, but a bit farther north. What most historians do not realize is that civilization continued on other continents during the first period of Lemuria, even though the vibration of the other continent was not as refined as it was on Lemuria. The first Lemurian civilization was later called the Land of Mu. It consisted of nearly 500 million souls at its pinnacle. About 3 grand cycles later, the EM fluctuations were such that another catastrophe ensued, and all the land masses except Lemuria became flooded. Most of the souls who perished in the surrounding continents reincarnated on Lemuria, and the population of Lemuria began to skyrocket. This became the second Lemurian period. This period was roughly from about 122 BC until about 100 BC. At the height of this second Lemurian civilization, the population again reached almost 1 billion people. These souls were not technologically oriented, but were tribal in nature, enjoy music and rhythm, and live in large cities along the coasts. I guess they were the Aborigines. Around 100,000 BC, the comet and Ananhutak, this is Dragon Zarila shit, you're a bloody idiot. Is them doing that when the population reaches a certain pinnacle, they bring this Ananhutak to destroy everything. made a particularly close approach to Earth, and the tail brushed into the atmosphere, causing dramatic cooling. The Lemurian people were used to the warm tropical climate, and all of a sudden the temperature dropped 50 degrees Fahrenheit in literally hours. It's nothing. Freezing most of them. Jews who knew what was coming fled to the sea. Many walked into the sea and drowned. A few tried to build undersea cities, but were largely unsuccessful. There are many legends of the sea that originate during this period. The Lemurian land mass eventually sunk beneath the sea. It was not just Atlantis that did. All those other dragons doing that, during the EM storm that followed the passage of the comet. There were only a handful of survivors, and they migrated to what is now South America and Australia. So they come from the South Pacific, they come to South America. You see? So it was about 100,000 BC. Later they came to South America. And then people wondered, they born there. No, they didn't born there. The Incas, Azteca, Mayas, they come from South Pacific, okay? And some went as Aborigines to Australia. Because of the earth problems, cataclysm sent by the Dracos, right? They are not native to South America too. And later Hawaii in the Philippines. Sound the bell, huh? They all come from the South Pacific, all from the Lemuria. I knew it already. What has not been revealed before, and what has been heavily suppressed or not, is that the Alpha Draconians were behind the unusually close passage of the comet. You see, through a series of nuclear explosions in space, they deliberately forced the trajectory of the comet closer to Earth in order to destroy the civilization there. The plan was to wipe out the existing life on Earth and then land and claim the Earth for themselves. True. Then they were partially successful in this regard, but landing in the native bodies on Earth was a whole lot harder than incarnation into millions of already existing bodies. This is what they did. This I have a video that explained how they came here, so they cannot fit in all this. You see, their bodies were so big, so large that they couldn't fit in this body, so they break themselves into thousand parts, and then they reincarnate, and then reincarnate ingredients to human. And even that they found it hard to adapt to Earth. So that's why many of them died as a baby, as a child, because they couldn't fit here. Suffice to say that they had a hard time surviving their reptilian body. And that's why many babies die when young or children, because they are Dracos, they cannot survive this human body. They just cannot stand this human body. It's too constricting for them. It's just like put yourself inside the sand. No, bury yourself, or put yourself inside a matchbox. Due to the unfavorable gravity and mix of gases in the atmosphere, the native bodies mutated and grew in size as they adapted, although the overall numbers remained small. This was the main period that gave rise to the legends of dragons roaming the earth. The Draconians, was not to be defeated. They easily spent long years in laboratories aboard the spacecraft splicing and mutating various DNA samples until they came up with a human Draco hybrid. The secret involved injecting reptilian DNA into the cerebellum section of the brain, where it quickly mutated the entire system. This part of the human is today still called the reptilian brain, although R complex. It's not the rhesus, that one is the reptilian. The R stands for uh, reptilian, not the rhesus. While the characteristic of this part involve aggressive and competitive behavior, I'm not competitive. I hate competition. I'm not losing that. And the fight or flight, and I'm aggressive just like Michael. I'm aggressive like Michael, only for a good cause, to fight injustice and evil doing. Otherwise, I'm not aggressive. I'm very uh, very quiet. Syndrome is designed to protect the organism. These characteristics, when combined with Orion DNA, became especially potent and dominated the entire organism. Today, about 80% of the DNA in humans is Orion in origin. Or maybe we should say Orion Draco hybrid. What's commonly thought to be human nature is the result of this DNA manipulation by the Draconian in subsequent incarnation by the Orions. I knew already. As stated in this channel's earlier works, our original DNA blueprint that we were so proud of, the one that Elohim created, was reduced to less than 20% of the overall makeup of a human being. Now I ask it, okay, you claim that you are the former being that came from the source, etc. Right? You are one of the former creations, okay? And then you are the original. So how on earth did you allow those Dracos to invade and create all this mayhem and havoc on earth? If you say that you are the founders and the original one, why? Why would you allow them? I don't think that free will is the answer. I don't think this is the excuses. I don't think something else that you are not telling is the answer for this question. Due to low survival rate of the Draconians after the destruction of Lemuria, the percentage of humans with true reptilian DNA on Earth has remained rather low. So due to the low survival rate, die, miserable beings, die. Most of the settling of Earth after 100,000 BC and before Atlantis was done by the councils of Rigel and councils of Betelgeuse from Orion. Note. So this one is Note. Long after the wars in the Orion sector came to an end over 100,000 years ago, men of the faction that immigrated to Earth continued to stay locked in battle mentally to the present day. As you can see by looking around, this trait ranges from civilized militarism and fervent patriotism, bigots, to overt hostility and barbaric customs, and all the racists, the xenophobic of certain continent, who doesn't treat foreigners well, but want to go to the other side of the world to beg for a job there. That's the one they're talking about. So long the wars in the Orion sector came to an end of 100,000 years ago, many of the factions that migrated to us continue to stay locked in battle mentally. And those people from Orion, I know who are they. I know who are Dracos here. I know who are you. We feel it important to add an explanation here regarding the views and levels of distortion existing on and above your world during the transition from Lemuria to Atlantis. Both the Alpha Draconians and the Orions had fleets of ships orbiting the Earth during this period. I'm sure these Alpha Draconians, nothing are. They are nothing more, nothing less than the Alpha White Albino. Okay, Dracons, the one that I saw in 27 September, and then this black bean told me he was not good. They were not good. These ships were largely in force density. These ships were largely in force density. The two groups had a loose alliance based on trade of technology in exchange for keeping hostilities at bay. Yeah, and for loot around the species in here. One of the technologies they had developed was a high intensity electromagnetic beam capable of disrupting the etheric fields around the earth. In order to keep their enemies from coming to earth, they created their force field using this technology. This field not only kept incoming ET groups at bay, but it created a distortion in the Akashic fields surrounding the earth. So everything went to the delete, went to the fragment bin surrounding the earth. Although the main library of Akasha does not have a location in time and space, this area above Earth's atmosphere constituted a portal into the Akashic. This is one of the reasons retrieving information during this time period has been difficult. Another important factor to consider here, and one that has been written about in your books, is the quarantine that went into effect after the destruction of Lemuria, because the vibratory level of humans had dropped so significantly. Earth was no longer considered a safe and desirable place on which to settle peacefully loving groups. To prevent the Orions and Draconians from corrupting astral and etheric civilization on neighboring worlds, a force field was put into place by the 70 density Pleiadians to keep Earth business confined to Earth. So, loving group, to prevent the Orions and Draconians from corrupting astral and etheric civilizations on neighboring worlds, a force field was put into place by the 70 density Pleiadians to keep Earth's business confined to Earth. This veil was not lifted until approximately 1907 AD, the time known as harmonic convergence. Once Earth's stability settled down after the destruction of Lemuria, the Draconians landed and attempted to proliferate. But they had a hard time in their reptilians' blood. Die, monster, die. They then resorted to incarnation through the surviving Lemurians on relatively stable landmass. So they incarnated monsters in Lemuria, Lemuria is the Incas, the civilization then that one, Turkey, some part of Asia, the Incas, and others then Peru, on a relatively stable land mass in what is now the Atlantic ocean. This explains the sacrifices of virgins girl buried alive, and the sacrifice of children to the Dracos, to their ancestral words they call them. At the same time, groups of Pleiadians saw the opportunity to once again settle the earth, and they came as well this past the quarantine. The councils of Rigel and Betelgeuse from Orion also came, and they found the atmosphere of Earth nearly ideal for rapid proliferation. The DNA of the survivors was now primarily Orion, with some Sirian, Andromedan, and Draconian energy as well. As the new civilization began to emerge, the Pleiadian, Orion, and Draconian DNA beginning to mutate, and the new beings became more scientific and intellectual in their evolution. So basically, we are hybrid, aren't we? Thus began the first period of Atlantis. These humans still had the reptilian brain, but their cerebral cortex also contained the elements of higher Pleiadian virtues and understanding. Oh my Lord! Oh my Lord! A civilization began to develop that is very much like the new one that exists today, with all manner of technological achievements. The higher Pleiadian mind combined with the passion of the Orions in the competition, the aggressiveness and brute ways and a rude behavior of the Draconians resulted in a structured world of machines and a great architecture. I got it. Michael and his legions, having been humbled by their mistakes. Hey, it's not a mistake. They just tried. Better have tried than never tried at all. It's not a mistake. How come you say mistake when you yourself is the one who say nothing is by mistake? It was never a mistake. He just tried. He tried his best. Though humbled by a mistake on time past, once again tried to influence the more involved souls of Atlantis. The councils of Rigel, having backed off during its instability, once again took an interest in what was happening. In addition to the large number of dead people incarnation into human form, they maintained a presence in spacecraft above the Atlantean continent. Obviously, the quarantine had not worked, and once again it was a magnet for all sorts of unsavory and savory characters. The first period of Atlantis came to a partial halt during the end of the Grand Cycle in approximately 50,000 BC. However, the civilization was rebuilt and the final period of Atlantis began. There is much fairly accurate information about Atlantis in several of your channeled writings, including the works of Alice Bailey and Edgar Cayce. We will not duplicate their effort. We will say, however, that the downfall of the second Atlantis occurred in about 23,200 BC, and was due to the misuse of crystalline energy generation systems. We will give a brief account of how this transpired. So it was 23,200 BC and not 100,000 like some say 15,000 recently. About 2,000 years before the end of Atlantis, the Atlanteans, the Atlanteans developed the radionic devices using quartz crystals. They were able to generate all the energy they needed for virtually every part of their civilization. This energy was powerful enough to tempt the unsavory aspects of the society. Several Atlanteans scientists made deals with Orion groups orbiting the Earth, trading technology in an attempt to gain superiority. This is similar to what is occurring today between certain Earth factions and the Zeta Reticulans. The Orion-based insurgents wanted the greater and greater power from the energy generation crystals, and they began engineering them to be used as weapons. They never got the chance to wage war because one of the particularly strong crystal generators exploded, sinking the continent and most of her inhabitants. Only a tiny handful escaped in airships and an even smaller number in seagoing vessels. Over 90% of those that tried to escape by sea were drowned in massive tsunamis. Oh my God, I guess that I remember this. I had a dream in 2013, 2014. I remember. I was drowned. And I was happy because the Ashita command would not accept me inside their mother ship. Another person who was not a very nice person was accepted. I was not. Those that fled in airships relocated to what is now Central and South America as well as Egypt. I see. So they went to South America and Egypt. See, many of them were fled in airship. When they say, how come? Oh no, they cross the Bering Strait. Isn't that just giving hypothesis? But all not certain. And I knew long ago that they went by vessels or spacecraft. I knew. But if I were to say that, people not believe and say that one is crazy or something. This channel has discovered that nearly all of the people who works with in past life, remembrance and healing sessions had an integral part in the downfall of Atlantis. I was one of them. I saw myself drowning. It was a great tsunami, great. And just to think about it, I have been plagued by nightmares after nightmares of uh, buildings being falling apart by fires. You see explosion by spacecraft on top, and then by tsunamis, big giant tsunamis wipe out the earth. And one of those I was there. The wave just swallowed me up, but I didn't care. I was okay. I just go, we, the founders, remained largely in observation. I'm not surprised that all you did was to just observe and do nothing. Just observing and seeing those circles getting fire. Remained large in observation mood as well during this period. Oh, I'm not surprised. It was our perception that what really destroyed Atlantis was an imbalance between the head and the heart. Hey, but wait a minute. Not all attractions were bad. Some were nice people. Okay? So don't try to generalize all the attractions here. Some were healers. Some were good souls. The scientifically oriented hybrids of the Atlantean period had once again suppressed their emotions in a manner similar to the Luciferians, and in so doing, most Atlanteans lost the ability to discern between energies that were supportive of spiritual growth and those that merely led to the accumulation of physical, astral, and etheric power. What's wrong? What's wrong about uh, that were between energy that were supportive of spiritual growth and those that merely led to what's wrong in accumulate physical, astral, and etheric power now? I see nothing wrong in that, dude. Had the inhabitants of Atlantis been balanced in their emotional and mental bodies, they would have seen what was happening and have been able to take steps to prevent it. We see a similar scenario being played out in your modern world today. Hey, wait a minute. First of all, if you send people here and then they erase it, they have their memory deleted, who are you all to blame us? Huh? Like in Atlantis, I don't remember. I don't remember having a conscience that knew about my past. I didn't remember. It was even worse than I am here right now, in this time. You see? So who are you to say that we should be this way, not that way? When you yourselves create all this possibility as well. We will say that you are very close to where you were at the time of the destruction of Atlantis. Yeah, thanks to you all. Should we thank you all? However, there are two important differences. Hey, dude, just say you want to explode the place. Just say I went there, I throw bomb, whatever from space. Don't need to go round and round and round and give an excuse, put blame shift, blah blah blah. Even blaming Michael, the angel Michael, for coming here and then fight evil. Come on, just throw your mask. You see. Draw your mask. Remove it and show who you are. Remove your tail. Let I see your horns. The divine dispensation is allowing a large number of souls to awaken to high states of consciousness today. And there are many benevolent entity groups that are closely monitoring the state of affairs on your world and will act in instant to prevent a large-scale nuclear war. In addition, these groups have sophisticated technologies that can detect exotic and unusual weapons before they are tested. These are the Pleiadians, right? The Pleiadians. So why you say you are the Elohim? So Elohims are the Pleiadians now? We have not yet covered a very important part of your history, that of the Egyptian, biblical, and Greek periods. I've been also there. I was with Alexander the Great. I have seen the war. I have seen grace involved in that war. I have seen burned, shined bodies inside convoys of military, how to say, military truck. I have seen all that. There is another player in the drama that forcefully shaped the cultures emerging after Atlantis. There's another player in the drama that forcefully shaped the cultures emerging after Atlantis, and that was the Syrians. In the next section, we will examine the role of the Syrians in Jewish, Christian, and Greek mythology. In addition, we will offer our perspective on what really happened during the time of Jesus, who he was, what he actually did, and where the distractions lie in the official historical accounting. And let's see if we're gonna tell the truth or not about who is this Jesus. About I know that he's Ananda as well, and he's ascended master, and he's from Sirius. Okay, let's see what next they have in store. So that's all for now. Just keep on wait for the next mighty blowing, exciting,